Also keeping an eye on the markets and the economy here. The fact of the matter is we're barely budging on the day. It's been weighing all the cross currents, including a better than expected read on the economy's growth in the final quarter of the year, a little bit better than thought, coming in at 2.6%. There is something else in that report that did concern some, and that is a slowdown in housing activity. Housing residential investment fell at about a 3.5 pace in those final 3 months. We're getting similar data, more recent data from the housing industry that shows slower growth, not necessarily reverse growth, but slower growth, because some other numbers, for example, housing permits, new construction activity has been not necessarily robust, but stronger. Let's get the read from former Fannie Mae executive Tim Rood. We've also got Coldwell Banker realtor Matthew Cooney. Matthew, ended with you. Your take on housing. You know, now we get so much data, but at least in the last 3 months of last year, there was this contraction in investment activity. What was going on?
Well, one of the things, there was definitely a lot going on in the world at that time. I mean, there was, the government shutdown. Late last year, you looked at interest rates had creeped up to that 5% level, and that really took a lot of buyers and brought them to the sidelines. Now with the interest rates, around 4.5%, according to Freddie Mac, what you're seeing is that there's just, the buyers are out there, and I don't see, as far as the upcoming spring market's concerned, I'm not seeing that there's going to be a radical shift from last year because of the fact that interest rates are low, because inventory is still tight. There's only about 4 months of inventory right now. A balanced market is 5 to 6 months of inventory. And overall, the economy is strong. The job market is strong. People tend to buy houses when they feel secure in their jobs or they feel like they can get another job that pays more money.
What do you think of that, Tim? From your vantage point, everyone worries when housing hiccups that, oh my gosh, could it be like what happened during the meltdown? What do you think?
Hi, Neil. I think it's fine. I'm not concerned about it. I'm certainly not worried. I think you and your guest laid it out pretty well, which is, yeah, we have a slowing. Look, what you saw at the end of 2018 was a very rational market, right? You had home price appreciation that was going, kind of unrestricted, up 7-8% a year. You had interest rates that spiked, and you hit an affordability crash. So borrowers took a pullback. You saw inventories rise. You saw values come down. It was perfectly rational. Now you're seeing a completely different thing where you're starting to see, looking at, as your guest said, just pure fundamentals. That's all I can look at and predict. You've got supply, which is still at 20-year lows. You've got affordability, which is what it takes for the median income to buy the median cost home. The affordability of that is fantastic. And then you've got the demand side. Demand, look, you've got millennials that are adding 10, 20 million new households over the next 5 or 6 years. Unemployment is low. Incomes are going up. I mean, other than the secular concerns that some people have that maybe millennials or adults are somehow never going to want to own a home again, I think we're going to be just fine.
It's interesting, Matt, what Tim just mentioned about millennials, too, because they're in that mix because they're student loan debt or whatever, but they're not inclined to find the prospect of buying a home, owning a home as alluring, let's say, as their parents, and maybe their experience from seeing their parents. A lot of them lose their homes or feel the duress of the meltdown. They don't want that for them. I don't know how much of a factor that is, but how does that play into your thinking?
Well, the millennial buyer is definitely a big part of the buying pool right now. And the problem is there's just not enough product for them to buy. I mean, the inventory that's available tends to be the older inventory. Millennials don't want that. Millennials want turnkey. They want homes that they can move right into. And they're not looking for those bigger homes. So what you're finding is that, the crunch is not across the whole market as well. I mean, real estate is hyper-local. So you really have to look at each individual market and then each individual price range. Because even where I am, some markets are doing incredibly well, multiple offer situations. And then you look across town and those homes are just sitting there. And it has to do with various factors like how they're located to trains and things of that nature. So real estate, you really have to look at each of these individual components separately.
Tim, you mentioned at the outset here that if the macro kind of things look good. You didn't say it in so many words, but then that should help housing. And by that, I would think you'd include jobs. You mentioned the very low unemployment rate, but we've got record numbers of people working across all demographic groups. And if that were to turn, it would be obviously a different scenario. So I don't see that turning yet. I could be missing something. So the economy, the fundamentals behind housing are pretty much like they are with every key sector, retail among them as well, that if people have jobs and they have job security, we don't have to worry as much. What do you think?
I think you're right. I mean, that's the thing that certainly puts me to sleep at night. I don't see any looming threats. I mean, you had the housing run-up that led to the housing crisis was about fraud and speculation. These are all about fundamentals. I don't have any issue with taking a breather. Quite frankly, we needed to take a breather as we're waiting for these millennials to get to that 32, 34-year-old range. But look, you're still in the longest economic expansion. You're in the longest employment expansion in history. I don't really see anything to worry about. Again, until you see interest rates pop back up above 5% and you start seeing inventory levels get to 6-7 months, then I'd take a pause and probably reevaluate.
All right. Tim, final word. Matt, I want to thank you both very, very much. Good seeing you.
Thank you.
All right.